Okay, well, tonight we actually get to officially kick off the first of our guest lectures. Our first guest is Mr. Chris Stevens. Chris received his BS from Notre Dame in 1974. He was vice president of the senior class and a four-year member of the varsity basketball team here. Chris completed the executive education program at Columbia Business School and is an angel investor in several startup companies. If you don't know what that is, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer that question, among others. As you might have guessed from the treats that we have outside, Chris is involved with Keurig Coffee Systems. He is one of the original 4 team members to develop and launch the Keurig Premium Coffee System in 1998. Keurig is now the #1 selling coffee brewer in America, and Chris is responsible for overseeing Keurig's corporate social responsibility initiatives. Keurig and its parent company, Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, commit at least 5% of their profits to charitable and environmental needs every year. Prior to joining Keurig, Chris enjoyed more than 20 years' experience in consumer goods sales and marketing, as well as general management with consumer products companies, including Procter & Gamble and Anheuser-Busch. Kind of too bad you didn't bring those along with you tonight, right? A frequent guest lecturer on entrepreneurism and life skills for numerous civic, business, and educational institutions, including Notre Dame, Chris has taught a 2-credit intensive interterm course here in Mendoza for the last 2 years. He's also a member of the board of directors of the Notre Dame Monogram Club, the Idea Entrepreneur Council at Northeastern University, a board member of the Chicago Chamber of Commerce, is on the board of trustees for arteriolateral sclerosis and active in other charitable causes. Chris is a published author. He wrote Fighting to Give, the Jimmy Culvey House story, a book that he wrote recently about a Notre Dame classmate of his who died after a courageous battle with ALS, otherwise known as Lou Gehrig's disease. 100% of the proceeds go to research for ALS and for cancer research in his late wife's name, with the goal of raising $1 million for research. This book is available on Amazon.com. It's also available here at our bookstore. Chris is a part-time actor, a voiceover artist, and executive producer of the movie 3 Days, which is scheduled to be released later this year. He has 5 children and lives in the Boston area, where Keurig started and still maintains its corporate offices. He's agreed to join us this evening and will be speaking to us about sales and entrepreneurship. Please join me in welcoming Chris Stevens.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Have I got this thing on? Did I push the right button? Are we okay? All right. Wow. Back at Notre Dame. So who here wants to be an entrepreneur when they get out? Raise your hand. Okay. Who wants to own their own business? Raise your hand. Who wants to be CEO? Raise your hand. Any finance people out there? Who wants to be a CFO? Chief Financial Officer? Got some CFO people out there? How about Vice President of Marketing, Design, Brand Strategy, stuff like that? Who wants to do that? And who wants to be a salesman? One? Okay, so, wow. Only one person wants to be a salesman. It's kind of interesting when I think about business schools. Business schools are very, very good at teaching about all the different elements of developing a business, managing a business, owning a business, how to make a business plan, marketing, finance, accounting, business ethics, leadership. All of these disciplines are absolutely critical. Let me ask you a question. What do you think is the #1 reason why businesses fail, startup businesses fail? Anybody? Business plan? What's the #1 reason why businesses fail, in your opinion? Come on, kids, there's audience participation. I start calling people in a second. Pardon? Cash flow. That can be a problem. What's another reason why businesses fail? Yes, sir.
Nobody wants the product they're selling.
Nobody wants the product they're selling. Too little sales. I submit to you that in business, nothing happens until somebody sells something. The greatest strategy that you can have, the best capitalized business that you can think of, the most creative new products that fill niches, nothing happens till somebody sells something. So what I want to talk about is a little bit about selling and sales management. Now, what's your vision of what a sales manager or salesperson is? Many people have the vision that it's like a Willy Loman. All right, what's the expression? Would you buy a used car from that salesman? Some people have that kind of a vision, but candidly, we're all selling. I mean, there's three kinds of people in this world. People that make things happen, people who watch things happen, and people who wonder what happened. And if you want to be an entrepreneur in this day and age, you better be able to make things happen. And I submit to you that it all starts with a dream. It all starts with a dream. What's your dream if you want to be an entrepreneur? What's your dream? What are you passionate about that you want to bring into this world? Where do you want to leave your mark? I'll ask you a question. What do you think all of these people up here have in common? Take your time. You probably recognize a few faces. You might want to guess what all these people up here, there's 10 of them up there. I see Oprah, Stephen Jobs. That looks like 50 Cent. Puffy. Howard Schultz, Ursula Burns, what do they all have in common? Yes, sir.
Passion, their tireless pursuit of their dream.
Passionate and their tireless pursuit of their dream. What else? What else do you think they have in common? Yes, sir.
Sold something?
They sold something. They sure did. They sold a lot. You know what? According to MSN.com, every single one of these 10 people was born in some pretty desperate circumstances. Circumstances I would venture to guess that not many of us were born into. I quote, "These highly successful chief executives came from poor or desperate beginnings, and those origins can sometimes explain how much they achieved or how they achieved so much. They became skilled at selling their dream and selling themselves." I won't read this whole thing, but here's a story on Stephen Jobs, right? You think, okay, well, he founded Apple in '76, right? Along with Steve. And you think about, well, great product, he's got to be a brilliant guy. Well, guess what? He actually then got fired from his job as the CEO in 1985. But they brought him back 10 years later because Apple wasn't getting it done, and look where Apple is today. Where do you think he came from? He actually dropped out of Reed College in Portland, Oregon, was basically a homeless person, used to walk 7 miles to a Hare Krishna temple to be able to get a meal. All right, so Stephen Jobs knows what poverty is all about. He knows what tough times are all about. These other people, Oprah, born in Mississippi in poverty, grew up in Tennessee in poverty, got into radio, that was her passion, started broadcasting at the age of 19, the rest is history. Forbes in 2009 made her the richest African American on the planet. Sheldon Addison, son of immigrants in Boston, Dorchester area, started having to serve papers at 9 years of age to help pay for the family food and their housing. He went on to become CEO of Sands Hotel. He's got about a $23 billion net worth. Ursula Burns, born in the New York projects, then got out of it and started studying mechanical engineering and got into Xerox and worked her way up, and is now the 27th most powerful person in America according to Fortune. Howard Schultz, raised in a Brooklyn project. Who would have thought? You ought to read his book, Onward. You want to be an entrepreneur? Read about Onward. Read about how Starbucks was built. Howard Schultz basically changed the American social gathering place. It used to be the diner, the bar, the tavern. It's not any longer. It's a coffee house. All right? And he started because he saw something and he noticed something. He noticed something when he went to Italy and saw how espresso cafes and stuff were really all about ambiance and character and charm. Well, after he left Starbucks and kind of retired, they lost that. They got into egg sandwiches and stuff, and he would walk into Starbucks and smell burning cheese and stuff, and they lost their way. Their per store comps started going down. They lost over $20 billion in market cap until Howard Schultz came back. And he's turned it around. Read his book, Onward. And the rest of there. 50 Cent, his father was shot when he was 3 years old. He was a drug dealer at the age 12. He was shot 9 times. Now he's a billionaire because he got into music, and he's been able to turn his life around. So, not everybody can afford a Mendoza education, but you don't have to. If you've got commitment and vision and you know where you want to go, you can make it happen. If you have a dream. There's been a lot of really, really great people that have walked the face of this earth. They've left us words of wisdom. They've left us legacies to be able to help us understand about things. And I think dreams are at the root of it all. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. John Quincy Adams. Stand often in the company of dreamers, Marianne Rodmacher said. They believe that you can achieve impossible things. A man who has no imagination, said Muhammad Ali, has no wings. Let your heart guide you, it whispers, so listen closely. I love this. Let your dreams bind your work to your play. Let your dreams bind your work to your play. Eleanor Roosevelt, the future belongs to those of us who believe in the beauty of our dreams. Along the way, you got to have dreams, but we need each other. And the stronger and the sooner that you recognize that and reach out and partner with somebody to help you realize your dreams, probably the faster you're going to get there. No man is wise enough by himself. We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. Everything that you give of yourself, you will get back twice in return. A pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity, said Churchill. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. I had dreams as a kid. I grew up in Washington, D.C., foster child. I don't like some of the guys and gals that you saw on the prior screen. Tough situation. Some real tough homes. And I was more interested in not getting beat every night and learning where I was going to sleep as opposed to thinking about where I was going to go in life and what my dreams would be. I eventually found sports, and sports saved my life. I had a teacher once that in 6th grade changed my life, and he didn't even know it. And when I tried to go back and thank him about 5 years later, he had already passed away. Anyway, I played well enough to be able to come here to Notre Dame and get an education and played on a great team. We actually knocked off UCLA's 88-game winning streak, finished 26-3 and ranked number 3 in the country. But it wasn't always that way. In fact, my sophomore year when I started, we played the #1 schedule in the country. I was playing center at 6'6", and we had started 5 sophomores, including 2 walk-on football players. We lost Indiana on national TV 94-29. We were 6-20. When we flew to Los Angeles, there was a picture on the Los Angeles Times, the front page, not the front page of the sports section, the front page of the LA Times, because we were going to play the #1 ranked UCLA Bruins. There's a picture of an electric chair. It said, "Is this what awaits the Fighting Irish in Pauley Pavilion?" So we went from the agony to our senior year to the ecstasy. So I started as a sophomore during that year. I was 6th man as a junior when we actually lost the NIT championship on a jump shot at the buzzer and finished 18-11. And I sat my senior year when we finished 26-3. You'll notice there's a directly inverse relationship between the quality of my time. People used to say, you were in the team that knocked off UCLA. Dude, I remember you from that game. Not unless you recognize the back of my head. So, you know what? So you agony, ecstasy, it's going to happen. You're going to fail at different times, okay? So the good thing is that after I got done playing ball in Belgium, we won a championship, I was done playing sports, and I had to start the real world life. And so I started selling for Procter & Gamble at $10,700 a year. I've learned a lot of lessons along the way. Part of this is going to be talking to you about sales and sales leadership, and part of this is going to be talking about lessons, because guess what, gang? You got to sell yourself every place you go. You did not get into Notre Dame just based on your grades alone. You had a presence about you. You had something that made Notre Dame believe in you as a person, that you were going to go forward and be somebody who would contribute to society and help build the legacy of this amazing institution. You sold yourself in here. I submit to you that we sell ourselves every single time we fall in love with somebody. We want them to fall in love with us. You ever sold anything on eBay? You ever bought anything on Amazon.com? You bought it because somebody's selling something. So selling is in our blood. And some of the lessons I've learned is that find a job you love and you never have to work a day in your life. If you think you're too big to do the little job, trust me, you're too little to do the big job. Along the way, make it your point to learn every aspect of that business that you're a part of. If you think you can, you're right. And if you think you cannot, you're also right. It's all about a state of mind. And there's been a lot of great books written that can help you from an attitude standpoint, create that constant state of mind. Goals are key. You got to write them down. And remember this. Everyone has the will to win, said Bobby Knight, but few have the will to prepare to win. The fact that you're here tonight is indication of the fact that, well, sales leadership, not sure, but let me at least go and find out. Maybe I'll learn something. And respect is built up through hundreds of positive deeds and destroyed by one stupid one. I know this. If I have a bad experience with a Keurig brewer, real bad experience, and I call Keurig to get it fixed, and the customer service is bad, I've got an immediate circle of me about 250 immediate friends. You think I'm going to be recommending Keurig? And they have a circle of them, each of them about 250 friends, okay? So respect is built up through hundreds of positive deeds and destroyed by one stupid one. I try to learn from anybody I can. Buddha, be careful what you think, your thoughts become your words. Be careful what you say, your words become your values. And be careful what you value, your values become your actions. And I would add, be careful what you do, your actions become your reputation. I think there's a lot of us who can point right now to some very successful athletes, actors, actresses, business people, politicians that chose to make decisions that have compromised their integrity. Integrity retained is invaluable. Trust me, integrity once lost is doggone near irretrievable. So, we were born of a dream and a vision. There were 4 of us in a watch factory in Waltham, Massachusetts, in a loft with a dream. We wanted to change the coffee world. We thought, why do we brew coffee a pot at a time when we drink it a cup at a time? That doesn't make much sense. People get free coffee in the office, but yet they're leaving the office, going down 5 flights of stairs, going across the street to the Starbucks or the Dunkin' Donuts, paying $1.50, $1.75 because they want freshness, variety, and convenience. So we thought, well, if we can bring that to them in the office, maybe we got something here. So we kind of pursued a strategy of coffee house taste by the cup. We had to get financed. We had to have a good strategy. We had a long-term vision. We had to know what our capital needs were. We had to know what our tactics were going to be to make this happen. We ended up going out and selling a coffee brewer to offices in New York City, and I started with 12 brewers on Martin Luther King Day 13 years ago, with selling a cup of coffee to the office at 5 times per cup versus what the office manager was paying away. And when we got done doing the demo, they thought they were getting a bargain. So we had to we changed the way that people think about coffee because we offered something that was a benefit. If you've got an idea or a strategy or a product that you want to launch or you want to introduce, it better fill a need or a void in a high volume category, and you better be able to have a very, very clear point of difference. Otherwise, why would people buy you? So, I talk about vision. If you don't know where you're going, it really doesn't matter much where you end up. And if you don't know where you're going, how are you going to know you arrive when you get there? This is our vision statement. I'm not going to read it to you, but it starts with our whole thing is a Keurig on every counter and a beverage for every occasion. So we're working all kinds of. We first started with coffee, Green Mountain Coffee, then we got more different kinds of coffee, Tully's Coffee, Gloria Jean's Coffee, Timothy's Coffee. Then we got into tea, so we've got Bigelow, we've got Twinings, we've got Celestial Tea, then we got into hot cocoa. Now we got hot apple cider. So if there's something, our technology is getting to be such that we're going to be able to offer whatever we think we can make in that brewer to make it something that that consumer uses all the time. That's what we're pursuing. And we want to be a leader in maximizing shareholder value, but we also want to give back. Laura talked about the fact that we give 5% of all of our profits towards corporate social responsibility initiatives. That's in good times and in bad times. We just celebrated our 30-year anniversary, our parent company, Green Mountain Coffee Roasters. Giving back has got to be part of your DNA. Today's consumer cares about the products. They care about the company in terms of how do they make the products, sustainability, what type of philanthropic and benevolence do they have. I love Starbucks because Starbucks gives back. Patagonia, Tom's Shoes, you can think of some great examples out there. So you're going to have difficulties along the way. I love what this lady said, Dolly Parton. She said to enjoy the beauty of a rainbow, sometimes you got to put up a little bit of rain. It's going to storm. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to have difficulties. But you know what? That's life. In sales, you're going to hear no a lot more often than you're going to hear yes. When the buyer says no, that's when the sale begins. The buyer always said yes, you wouldn't be selling, you'd just be taking orders. And trust me, it doesn't work that way. So no, again, doesn't mean no, I don't want to buy from you. No means you haven't given me enough information to say yes. No is an opportunity to have a dialogue. So I think in terms of your plans, looking long term, those are important. But remember, when tough times happen, anybody can hold the sea when the sea is calm, or hold the helm when the sea is calm. So what's that got to do with selling, Chris? Brings me back to selling. Entrepreneurs, you've got to sell yourself, your ideas, and your plan. You're constantly selling when you develop a business. You also need to sell your spouse or significant other. You better be able to sell your investors, your stakeholders. You better be able to sell customers, retailers that you want them to carry your product. The consumers, what's your point of difference? And if you're not the salesperson in the relationship within your company, and that's not maybe your specific skill, you sure better recruit somebody who is. Recruit partners with complementary skills to you. Don't recruit carbon copies. Trust me, if two partners always agree in business, one of them is unnecessary. So you want to be able to have a partner that you can engage with and push and challenge each other with, and trust me, your end product will be much, much better. There's a lot more than meets the eye to selling. You have to learn the art of selling, handling objections, communication, talking, listening, improving your communication skills, cold calling. Cold calling is a fact. It's simple math. Cold calling is simple math. Whatever business you get, you've seen all those movies like, the cold calling people in the sweat boxes, cold calling. You get the calls yourselves and people trying to sell you on investments, insurance, etc. They understand the word no. But if you learn the great skills of cold calling, you can really improve your bottom line in your company. Sales training, compensation, the whole compensation structure for a sales organization. As your company grows, you better have the right compensation in place. I remember George Foreman. Remember George Foreman, the great heavyweight champion? Who can tell me a product that he endorsed? George Foreman Grill. Whatever. Sultan had the contract with him. So they did this contract with George Foreman, and they gave him a % of the gross sales as opposed to the profit. And he ended up making something like $200 million, and Sultan went bankrupt. You better be square in terms of what your compensation structure is, else you end up in a very, very bad place. And maintaining customer intimacy, and I want to talk about that. I don't care what business you're in. I don't care what your position is, whether you're the CFO, the marketing director, the sales manager, the salesperson, or the CEO, you better be focused on customer intimacy. I know with short notice, there was this Harvard Business Review article. Anybody have a chance to read this called Manage Oneself? Anybody? Give me something that you learned out of that. Anybody? Back of the room so we can hear you. Redskins, talk to me. What'd you learn from it? Anybody? Anybody? Yes?
You have to align yourself with the company's values in order to be happy.
You have to align yourself with your company's values in order to be happy. Yep. What else? Yes?
Being aware of your strengths and weaknesses.
Being aware of your strengths and weaknesses. And who can talk about what are a couple of the strengths that they point out? What are one type of people?
Talkers.
Talkers. Another type of people? Listeners. Another type of people? Readers, writers, etc. So he talked about going through, Peter Drucker, a process that he uses to try to be able to assess who he is. And he used some great examples with President Eisenhower as one in terms of what type of a person he was. So what's really important is as you go forward, who are you? What's your strength? Not just what's your passion. It's one thing to have a passion. It's another thing to have the ability to be able to act on that passion. And if you don't have a particular strength, you might be able to learn some parts of it, but you may have to say, you know what, I don't have that. I need to let that go. I need to build on my strengths while I partner with somebody who's got those other skills that I lack. So, I think questions to ponder. What are your dreams? What are your strengths? What's your passion? What are you trained to do? What have you focused on in terms of school? What do you try to do to get better at? How much money do you need to make when you graduate? How much money do you want to make? I've got a whole chart that talks about in terms of rent, insurance, health insurance, etc. Basically, to afford an apartment of $800 a month and a car payment of maybe $200 a month, you better be able to make about $58,000 a year, or you're really going to be struggling, and that's not a lot of beer money on weekends either. So if you think about it when you get out of here, you need to be prepared to be able to go after those kind of jobs that are going to help you achieve your goals if they're financial. Will you be ready when your shift come in? I'm using Keurig as an example because I kind of know it intimately. When we started this thing, the original guy had a design of the brewer. Great idea. That's what got me wild about it. They kind of recruited me. I did a market plan pro bono because I thought it was a very cool idea. And so the venture capital said, hey, why don't you come on and help us launch this thing, lead this thing? I was like, I don't do startups. I run big companies. And no, come on. I said, well, I always wanted to build something from scratch. So I said, okay. When I got there, the packaging line didn't work and the brewer didn't work. Great concept, great design, but the logistics of what that entrepreneur had, he couldn't bring to life. That's what happens a lot of times. A lot of times people have ideas, but they can't bring them to life. That's why you got to recruit people who've got the ability to bring things to life. So we actually had to totally redesign it. We almost went down under a couple of different times. We had a supplier issue where a supplier changed the spec on the lid stock of the K-Cup portion back and never told us about it. Also, we were getting all these non-punctures. We had to go around in New York and Boston and change needles out of brewers that almost broke us. We launched our first consumer brewer in 2004 at $249, and we didn't make any money until 2005. So, what does that tell you? I was at that for 7 years, and we were losing money. But we had investors and a financial structure where we knew where we were going to go. We felt that the reward at the end of the line was going to pay that out. So you better have financial backers who understand what your plan is, and your contingency plan better have in there that it's going to be a lot more expensive than you possibly could imagine. Green Mountain Coffee Roasters bought us in 2006 for 160 times earnings. People thought they were totally nuts. But they were our largest roaster at the time, and it made sense from a partnership standpoint. Since then, Green Mountain has bought up all the other licensing partners we did business with. And Fortune actually just this morning named us as, for the second year in a row, the #2 growth company publicly traded on Wall Street at 2010, 2011, because our sales are growing. 2.3 billion last year, 70% growth rate, $150 million. I'm not using that as a brag, that's my resume. I'm using it to say, when you have explosive growth, are you able to handle it? Do you have a 5-year plan? Do you have all the contingencies in place that when your ship comes in, that you can deliver it? How many times have you seen products go south because people get on hold, they can't handle the business, things break, they start compromising on quality? Schlitz beer, great beer that made Milwaukee famous. I remember back when I was a kid, young adult, and we were, Schlitz tasted great. All of a sudden it started tasting tinny. It was the #1 beer in America. It just didn't taste right. Well, what did they do? Demand was so strong, they had not planned for it from a capacity standpoint, so they changed the formula to shorten the brew cycle so they could make it faster. And the quality came out of the quality. Schlitz, I don't even think it exists anymore. So never compromise on quality. The road to success is sometimes not very smoothly paved. Anybody recognize this gentleman? If you want to be in sales, this is the guy you want to get to know about. His name is Joe Girard. Joe Girard didn't come up the easy way. Born in the Detroit area, his father beat him regularly. Tough situation, Sicilian family. Started a paper out at the age of 11, kicked out of high school, arrested for breaking and entering with 16, kicked out of the Army, declared bankruptcy. He owed $60,000 when he started a business. Somebody stiffed him on it. He had started a family, could not feed his family at the age of 35. He finally got on with a Chevy dealership, a car dealership, got fired, but then finally convinced the Chevy dealership in Detroit to hire him. At the age of 35, he had learned enough in life to know from his mistakes, and he totally turned his life around. He became the #1 big-ticket salesperson according to the Guinness Book of World Records. He sold 13,001 Chevy cars and trucks, one car and truck at a time. Not fleet sales, not wholesale sales. He did it through customer intimacy. Joe Girard could sell. But the people that he sold didn't feel like they were being sold. They felt like they were family. He would get up every morning about 4 o'clock in the morning and write handwritten cards to customers, prospects, people who had bought from him, people's kids that he found out about who were graduating from high school, Ramadan, Easter, Halloween, birthdays, anniversaries. People got a piece of creative mail from Joe Girard at least once a month. So that's at least 12 pieces of mail. He never really had to advertise or anything. People just kept coming to him. He averaged 6 new car sales a day, and one day he sold 21 cars in one day. So Joe Girard, he's written some great books, and if you want to talk about, again, customer intimacy, you can read his book. So I actually kind of designed a course or something that maybe someday I'll have a chance to be able to teach. I call it Sales and Sales Leadership for the Entrepreneur. You notice I don't call it sales management. I think you manage affairs, you lead people. You lead people. People don't want to be managed. People don't want to be micromanaged. People want to be inspired. They want to be trained. They want to be provided with an environment where they can become as good as they can be. They want to contribute. They want to be part of the process. So the strategy is to do a deep dive into the whole philosophy of selling the key elements, making the sale, keeping the sale, and building a world-class sales organization. How many times have you heard about the best salesperson being hired to become the sales manager or sales leader, but doesn't succeed? Different skill sets sometimes required there. So sometimes it's important that you understand that you need training and development programs for your top salespeople that you want to be able to move and lead your other organizations as you grow. We have 71 job openings right now on Keurig.com. We actually just filled one with Laura Walbeck, who graduated from here about 2-3 years ago, Notre Dame grad, and she starts in our whole logistics area in 2 weeks. So we got 71 job openings. We have over 1,000 job openings at GMCR GreenMountainCoffeeRoasters.com. Now, a lot of those are engineering and packaging specific, okay, but we've got marketing needs and sales needs, et cetera. So if you know anybody's interested in Keurig, check out our website. The tactics, we will read about the best, we will study the best, and we will interact. Role play as buyers, role play as sellers, so that you understand how many times you want to sell something to somebody, and you want to sell them real bad, but you haven't taken any time to understand if you're fulfilling their need. Selling is a two-way conversation. The sales process has got to be about fact gathering, about understanding what the needs are before you try to fulfill it with something that you want to sell. When I get calls all the time on the phone from brokers, etc., I keep them on the line for as long as I feel like they engage me and that they ask smart questions and that they're trying to really understand what my needs are as opposed to selling me that insurance policy or that new brokerage deal. The desired outcome is going to be to help you live your dream. So one of these days, I hope to have a chance to do that. I've seen a lot in life in this journey. As Laura mentioned, I've got 5 wonderful kids. I've had a chance to live a lot of places, do a lot of different things. So I want to just talk to you a little bit about the journey and talk to you about some things I've learned along the way, mistakes I've made from a sales standpoint. Also, some successes I think that might be tips for you to be able to do well yourself. Your dream is only your dream until you write it down. I started with P&G in '75, and then I moved to Detroit, and then started Chicago, and then Pittsburgh, Detroit, Cincinnati, and then Boston in 5 years. I found out P&G doesn't have a Procter & Gamble, stands for Pack and Go. But when I got up there, my next move was back to Cincinnati and up the ladder, selling more soap, and I just didn't really want to do that. So I had dinner with a buddy of mine, who actually was a classmate of mine here in Notre Dame, Jerry Samaniego, and he sounded like he wasn't really happy doing his thing either. And I said, dude, we got to do something. I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to write down on this piece of paper right here. I haven't had a piece of paper with me. I said, I'm going to write down where I want to be in 2 years, what I want to do, how much money I want to be making, and why don't you do the same? And then we'll seal them in envelopes, we'll hand them to each other, we won't open them until 2 years from now, we'll either eat here or at your place, and we'll open the envelopes and see how we do. See, and whoever did the best job doesn't have to buy dinner. Deal? He's like, yeah, sure, he's an athlete, competitor like I was. I will tell you, I was galvanized from that day on for 2 years. I was not going to lose to Jerry Samaniego. Sometimes we try to do it all on our own. What do you think about partnering up with somebody as you think about your career search, as you think about what you want to do? Challenge each other, push each other. How many courses are you taking this semester?
19 credits.
Any? 19 credits? How many courses are you taking? Josh? 12 credits. How many else? How many courses are you taking? 15 credits. All right, so you measure things in terms of credits here. That's the language in Notre Dame. So I submit to you, I think you need to add a course to your curriculum this semester and next semester and dedicate the time necessary to be successful. And that course is on your career. Set a course, set some goals. What are you doing to be able to fulfill your dream? Set the objective about where you want to be, what you want to do, and what's your strategy for getting there, and spend time every week consciously working on that and grade yourself on it. Self-graded, honor system. Trust me, it will work. And I think about different, career center, there's only wonderful things that are really here that are great and available to you. I think interview tips to leave an impression. Again, you want all the basics, know the competition, know the company. But one of the other things I see, people come in, they don't look around. Look around. Look around. When you come in to interview me, look at my desk. Are there kids or whatever? Start a conversation, engage me, sell me on wanting to talk to you. If I do a lot of interviewing, I'm either sold or not sold probably in the first 15 seconds I see you. Are you polished? Are you professional? Are you nervous? Are you sloppy? Are you inattentive? Do you use the word like after every other word in the sentence? Done. You need to learn how to communicate. So I role play and arrive 15 minutes early, etc. And the other thing is prepare a portfolio. I think this is critical. I told Laura about it when she came to an interview with Keurig. She never heard about it, so maybe many people out here have not either. I think it's absolutely critical. When you go into an interview, you bring your resume? Yes? Anybody bring a portfolio? Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about your portfolio? Okay. Good. I think what you ought to think about doing is have a portfolio, nice leather binder. First page should be someone that you can change, and it should say, Laura Hollis, a current profile, September the 13th, 2011. Logo of the company in the background, the guy or gal's name that you're interviewing with right there at the bottom. All right, and then acetate. The first acetate is your updated resume. And then chronologically going back in time, what are the things that you have done that you can point to? Empirical stuff that shows this interviewer that you're ready, you're the person for the job. You're qualified. Examples of Excel spreadsheets or PowerPoints that you've done. I saw some PowerPoint presentations today in another class that totally blew me away. I don't even dress for that game. All right, but when I see someone who's got those kind of skills, I want to talk to them. Maybe examples of letters of recommendation or commendation that you receive from charities that you volunteered for. So that when you're in the interview, and you're going to get all this typical, tell me about a time when, you're going to get those questions. Tell me about a time when you had to use persuasion to overcome. Tell me about a time when you had to overcome an objection. You say, well, gee whiz, Mr. Johnson, I actually, there was a specific instance. Well, here, let me show you. Then you take this out, and you put that in front of him with his name on it. And I'll tell you right now, you will make an impression that will not be forgotten. When you leave that room, he's either going to say, Tom, I just talked to somebody you've got to talk to. Or he's going to say, do you have a chance to stay for another couple of hours? There's a couple people want you to meet. Trust me, it's selling. You're selling yourself. And as opposed to sitting there talking about it, show them. Show them. A picture says that it tells 1,000 words. Trust me, it really does. All right, so that's just one of my recommendations. And then I got my top 10 tips for your living your dream. Okay? Number 10, you are no better. If you're an athlete, you're no better. Be nice to the people that you meet on the way up because you never know who you're going to run to on the way down. I always tell my kids in high school, you better be nice to the nerds because you're probably going to be working with one someday because they're studying there. You call them a nerd because you don't think that they're cool or whatever. Diversity is what we're all about. It's why it works. It's why it works. High school kids that get into the cliques and stuff like that, and I tell them, I say, you know what, I'm sorry. That iPod that you can't let go of, who do you think designed that? A linebacker? No, it was probably the kid in science that you made fun of because you thought he was a little bit nerdy. Oh, and those designer jeans that Mom bought you from Abercrombie & Fitch, do you think it was the first baseman who designed those? The cool guy? No. It was probably the gay kid that you sat next to that you did not stand up for when other people made fun of him because of who he was and who he is. It's work. It all works, and we've got to be able to celebrate it. And all of us have the opportunity right now to go into schools and counsel and mentor young people. The bullying has got to stop. The peer group pressure from social media and everything on these young people is way too much. So anybody here volunteering, helping out, and seniors, anything like that? God bless you. That's an important thing to do. So remember that we're no better. Father Hesburgh said something that I thought was really profound one time. He said, you know what? The greatest gift you can give your children is not necessarily your time. That's important. The greatest gift you can give your children is to love their mother. Now, not all marriages end up the same way. Not all partnerships do that. But that's no excuse for a lack of respect, a lack of dignity. Think about sometimes how when you engage with your partner, when times get tough and you're tired and you say things that you shouldn't say. Think about children that observe this, all right? And their whole idea about relationships starts with their ability to be able to take a look at people being loving and respectful of each other, even if they're not together anymore. And I mentioned again, integrity retained is invaluable. Integrity once lost is irretrievable. Don't be afraid to fail. Aim high, soaring. Aim low, boring. If you're always achieving your goals, maybe you're not pushing yourself quite high enough. And again, shoot for the moon, said Les Brown, because even if you fail, you'll still be among the stars. Do not let what you can do interfere with what you cannot do. Do not let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do. John Wooden, great man, great man. He's written some books, and there's a man that you ought to read and admire. The quality of a man's life, Lombardi, is in direct proportion to his commitment to excellence, regardless of his chosen field of endeavor. There's some great books written on coaching in terms of motivating and things in terms of coaching and teams, and there's some really good things to be learned there. Respect your coworkers and friends. A great manager, I read this on a super salad wall one time. It's a great manager doesn't build the business. A great manager builds an organization, for it is the organization that builds the business. Don't be a micromanager. Don't try to do it all yourself. Catch people doing things right. Praise them in public. Correct them in private. How many times have you been in a restaurant where maybe somebody drops a tray and the manager comes over and starts ripping them right there in front of the customers? How long do you think it's going to take that person to get over that? Praise in public, correct in private. Ronald Reagan followed Jimmy Carter, and Jimmy Carter, they said, probably worked 18, 16 hours a day. A tireless worker, good man, hard-working man. Ronald Reagan comes in 8 years in the office, and most people thought he worked about 6 to 8 hours a day. He had breakfast with Nancy and the residents, and in the afternoon, tea and coffee. And they said, Mr. President, how do you manage a schedule like that? He said, I found that the key to success is finding good people, giving them the tools to get the job done, and then getting the heck out of the way and letting them get it done. Make sure that you empower the people that you work with as you grow. Never stop learning. Kennedy said, leadership and learning are indispensable to each other. Do athletes stop training just because they become pros, or do cooks stop inventing new recipes? Our journey through life has got to be a constant journey of self-discovery. I love languages. I'm teaching myself Italian, just me. So when I go for a walk, I take a little Italian book. People think I'm nuts. But find out what it is. You just get so stimulated sometimes when you just cheat yourself something new. Number 5, serve your country. Any veterans here? God bless you, sir. Anybody else? Anybody, Lee, how are you, sir? Anybody have family that's in the military right now, immediate family? Close friends? Not a majority, quite a few. The blanket of freedom that we enjoy today has been provided by people who are willing to serve and to step up. I'm very blessed. One of my sons, Connor, was in the Marine Corps. He came home after my wife passed away, and he was a freshman at UMass Amherst, and he just finished his freshman year. And he said, Dad, our country's at war. I've decided there's a lot of kids that have to go in the military because they don't have any other way to get out of their life or circumstances, but I'm going to take one of their places. I'm going to enlist in the Marine Corps, serve my country for 4 years, and when I get out, the GI Bill will pay for my education. And then all that money that you saved up for me, I get it, right? And so he did that. And so Connor went into the Marines, and a friend of his, Jake Murphy, went to West Point. And when Connor was getting out of the Marines after doing 2 tours of Iraq, and he got hit, he has a disability check for the rest of his life. Jake was just going in as a first lieutenant into Afghanistan, and we just got word 30 days ago that he stepped on an IED and both of his legs were blown off. The blanket of freedom that we have today has been provided by those who've been willing to step up to Al-Qaeda, to the Nazis, to communism. All right? I'm reminded of something, when you're a father or a parent or whatever it was, somebody who's in the military in harm's way, you're always concerned about that knock on the door, that phone call. And I'm always reminded of one of my favorite movies, Saving Private Ryan. Ever see it? Remember at the beginning of the movie, the secretaries kind of noticed that there are not 1, not 2, but 3 Ryan brothers who've been killed in action. So they kind of come to the captain, who comes to the colonel, who comes to the 1-star general. And they finally bring it to General Marshall, head of the European Theater, and they say, General Marshall, the policy now is, after the Sullivan brothers, is that when there's one more sibling out there, we take him out of the theater and send him home to his family. There's been 3 brothers killed. And he parachuted with the 101st Airborne, and we got no idea where he's at. So we're never going to be able to find him, but we want to let you at least know about it so you're aware. He said, no, we're going to find him. He said, no, General, you understand. We have no idea. They're all over Normandy. He said, we're going to find that boy, and we're going to bring him home. He said, I want to read you something. Remember, he reaches back and he pulls out a letter. He said, I want to read you something. He said, I have been shown in the files of the War Department a letter from the Adjutant General of Massachusetts that you are the mother of 5 sons who died gloriously on the field of battle. I feel how weak and fruitless must be any words of mine which should attempt to beguile you from a grief of a loss so overwhelming. But I cannot refrain from tending to you the consolation that may be felt. and the thanks of a nation that they died to save. I pray that our Heavenly Father may assuage the anguish of your bereavement and leave you only the cherished memory of the loved and the lost, and the solemn pride that must be yours to have laid so costly a sacrifice upon the altar of freedom. Abraham Lincoln wrote that letter to Mrs. Bixby in 1864, who lost 5 sons. And I would submit to you that the president could take that time. We could take time to send care packages, to do whatever we can to support those who are overseas, because they are providing the blanket of freedom that we enjoy. Pat Tillman left a multi-million-dollar contract with the Arizona Cardinals free safety to join his brother in Special Forces and was killed by friendly fire. He gave the ultimate last full measure of his devotion. Business is like golf. It's your follow-through that counts. So in the business world, if you're not following through, I can't tell you how many times I've seen situations where someone sold me, and then I never heard back from it. I got to call them after I agreed to buy something for you, write stuff down, check it regularly. Be the Joe Girard of your field. Handwritten cards. When I do an interview, boy, when I get a handwritten card, it means a lot to me. It was just my birthday yesterday, and I will tell you, I got probably 30 emails or texts or whatever, which was nice. I got 9 handwritten cards, and I appreciated the thoughts of everybody, but that handwritten card from a couple of people that took the time to go out and print, that just meant something to me. So I'm just saying, it means something to your buyers too, to the people that you do business with. Don't forget to keep the notebook. By the notebook, I want to talk about everybody as you get older. You don't want. How many have life insurance policies right now on them? Probably not a lot. All right. As you get older, things are going to happen. You're going to have a family. You're going to have kids. You're going to have responsibilities. Keep a notebook where in one place, everything that somebody needs to access to be able to find out about how to handle the will. Where are your bank accounts? What are the life insurance policies? Where are the bonds, the stocks? What do you want done with the furniture? Well, who's going to take care of the kids? Have in one place, one notebook, so that if something should tragically happen to you and your spouse at the same time, the family's going to be devastated. Don't make it worse by having the state have to come in and take it all and have people tied up in court. Get yourselves the notebook and keep it for your family. It's never too early to start creating your legacy. Don't be defined by your success. Trust me, success will feed your ego. Setbacks will build your character. And I talked about some examples earlier today. And I think, again, maintain a balance in life and insist that your employees do the same. I've never seen on a tombstone, I wish I spent more time in the office. All right? Make sure that your employees are able to coach Little League and do those things. And make sure that you do too. Don't get so caught up in what you're doing that you forget about the most important thing to you, which is your family. Be generous with your success. Honor the less fortunate, seniors, the homeless. These are tough times. I'm proud of my kids because they've developed a policy that I have, and I didn't push it on them. They never walk by a homeless person without putting something in the cup. I don't care where it's at. I don't care if they got 5 cents or 10 cents in their pocket. Anybody from Boston here? All right, you know Storrow Drive? You come to the intersection, you want to get on the Mass Pike, there's Doubletree Hotel, right? That exit ramp there. At this exit ramp there, before you get on the Mass Pike, right by the Charles Road, there's invariably a homeless person standing, right? And I watch people. They roll up the windows. They tap the windshield, trying to make sure that, okay, please green, turn green. Why not get out of your car? Pull a $5 bill out of your pocket. Go up to him and say, sir, what's your name? I'm Chris. How are you? Here you go, sir. Have a good day. You've got hope today. Do you know what you're going to do for that person? Do you know that maybe you can afford that $5 or $2 or $1? All right? Think about that. Think about trying to make a difference in the world, and it'll make you feel good. Trust me. Whatever you give, you will get back twice in return. Number 1, keep your higher power as a CEO. I don't know about you. I get going fast. I get going too fast sometimes. I shouldn't. Sometimes I get the phone calls and somebody texts me and I'm driving. I know. I'm trying not to. But that tells me I'm going too fast. I got to stop someplace. I don't care if it's by the side of the road. I don't care if it's the grotto, wherever it may be. Go to a safe place, a quiet place where you can get outside of your head and give thanks for the gifts that you have and for the wonders that you've got today, and ask for forgiveness for the dumb things that you've done, or maybe the things that you really regret that you've done. I don't know about you, but when I do that, I feel like a car that just got washed. I just work better. I think better, and I sure as heck feel better. Enjoy the ride. It's the only one that we know of. And leave remarks so people know you're here. Laura mentioned the fact that I wrote a book, a buddy of mine from here at Notre Dame, class of 76. He died of Lou Gehrig's disease. I barely knew him. Being a basketball player and Joe, athlete, we go into Corby's. Those days, Corby's was pretty interesting. We go to Corby's bar, and this guy Stump, his nickname, was a bartender, 5'6". I didn't even know he went to Notre Dame. Anyway, so anybody know Professor John Gasky? Professor Gasky, you here by any chance? So Professor Gasky had kept in touch, and he saw that Jimmy had a website that he was dying of ALS. He was trying to raise money for ALS. And John, Professor Gasky remembered him well from Corby's, very well. And so he sent out an email to all the boys saying, hey, this guy Stump's dying of ALS. Here's his website if you're interested. So I went to his website, and I said, hey, I went to Notre Dame. He did what? What? You guys know the story of Rudy, right? Rudy got into a game for 15 seconds. Wonderful guy. He's made a great living, based on that. Stump from Gary, Indiana, 5'6", earned 9 letters in his high school Hall of Fame in 2 sports. All he wanted to do, like Rudy, was to go to Notre Dame. Applied, rejected. Applied again, rejected. Applied a 3rd time, rejected. Finally went before the admissions board because he wanted to get in. Got in on a probationary basis, which meant if he got any less than a B, he was out. Worked 3 jobs to pay for his education because his father wouldn't, because he had a scholarship offer for golf in the South and wouldn't take it. All right, and he walked on to the freshman team, golf team, with 6 returning lettermen, started all 4 years, set the course record at 64, that still stands, set the tournament record at 18 under, that still stands, and his life got more amazing from there. So when I read about it, I sent him some motivation stuff I'd written in for people and sent a nice donation to his website, and he bounced me back and he said, Hawk, my nickname, Chris, Hawk, I read what you wrote. You've got to write my life story. I've lived an amazing life. I was like, I'm not a writer. He said, no, you got to write it. I said, Jimmy, I don't even know you. It's been 35 years. You live in Salem, Oregon. I live in Boston. 5 kids, startup company. What are you talking about? And then I thought, okay, I'd lost my wife and both of my brothers to a disease called Huntington's disease. They all died in the same year. It was kind of a tough year. It was about a year later. And I thought, maybe this is what you want me to do. So I flew out and spent some time with him and his family. And then I literally was working on a deadline because Jimmy was dying, if you know about the disease. It's neuromuscular. So the goal is to try to raise $1 million for ALS. It's about Notre Dame, it's about sports, it's about life, it's about family, and I'm proud of it. So it's, as mentioned, Laura mentioned, it's on Amazon.com or at the bookstore. So anyway, that's my story. Selling is not a job. Selling is life. Selling and sales management can be an incredibly rewarding career. Because as I said, nothing happens till somebody sells something. As you go forward, and you have a specialty that's maybe even marketing, finance, whatever, I can't tell you how many times I've seen situations where marketing is at sales throats and there's no respect, whatever. Nothing happens till somebody sells something. So as you move forward in your lives, think about doing the right thing, think about leading, think about inspiring, and think about making it happen. Thanks very much. I've got a few minutes if anybody's got any questions about anything, businesses, organizations, anything.
Since we don't have mics for everybody else, Chris, if you would just repeat the question, that'd be great.
Anybody? No, I'm the only thing holding you between here and Legends. You're all invited to Legends for, you're on scholarship with the Coffee Man tonight for the next hour if you want to have a beverage right after this. Anybody? Any questions? Yes, sir.
What do you think about Howard Schultz asking CEOs to curtail political donations?
I don't want to make a value judgment on what Howard Schultz is doing. I believe, as Warren Buffett said, he's in a lower tax bracket than his secretary, and that's wrong. So something's got to be done about some of the ways that we're doing things now. I love the fact that there are 69 billionaires in this company that have joined the Giving Pledge, including Howard Schultz, including Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett has committed 99% of his wealth to charity. So I think as it relates to politics and specialists, did anybody hear President Obama's speech the other night on jobs creation? Anybody hear that? I mean, he's just begging us to say, look, here's some common sense things, and if we can just do this and stop the bickering, get people back to work. So I think people are trying whatever they can to try to make the world a better place, and I think that's something he's trying to do. Anybody? Yes, sir.
I heard that the original engineer of the brewing device created a K-cup. Got angry that they were going to sell the coffee machine for like in a discounted rate because the company thought the K-cups required.
The original guy invented, the question is relative to the inventor of Keurig. Lovely guy, had the invention, just wouldn't let go of the design. we had invested money, and so you got a hold of our phone. You know, you got to know when to. And John, we just couldn't make it, so we bought him out. He got a fair price in terms of value at the time, but he didn't agree with the strategy. He wanted to develop his own coffee brand, and we didn't want to develop a coffee brand. We wanted to be a delivery system that allowed people to be able to enjoy the favorite coffees that they already know, love, and pay a premium for, and give it to them one cup at a time. And he just disagreed with that strategy, among other things. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Can B-School teach selling?
Can business school teach selling? Well, there are sales courses here, are there not?
The MBA level.
Not the MBA level? Well, I would submit to you that yes, you can. I mean, selling is a skill. It's not a gift. It's not inherited. It's a skill. You develop it. I'm not the best salesman in the world, but I can get into certain situations based on the training that I've got, and I can summarize the situation. I can state the idea. I can explain how it works. I can reinforce the key benefits, and I can suggest an easy next step that's going to get me probably the sale a lot more often than other people are not skilled in that area. I can talk about the features of a product, but I then can translate those into the benefit of the consumer, why that feature that we've got makes sense to that consumer. So the answer to your question is yes, I absolutely think it can be done. Anybody else? The mind can only absorb what the rear end can endure. I understand that. Last one.
Hi, Phil Garrison, the Secretary of the
Hey, Phil.
And I was curious about your CSR responsibilities and how does Keurig view CSR, and how you would like CSR to be viewed around the business world? Because right now it seems like there's a lot of viewpoints of what corporate social responsibility means to businesses.
Question of hers about corporate social responsibility in businesses. Again, I think it's in our DNA. When Green Mountain purchased us in 2006, I can tell you it was not in Keurig's DNA. We were a startup, venture capital back, and all we could care about 7 days a week, 18 hours a day, was trying to maximize, value to get this thing where we needed to get. But when Green Mountain bought us, and we were able to understand their culture, philosophy, and that giving back is the way to go, I could tell you, I always kind of gave back myself personally, but we just couldn't do it. So I think there are many companies that do it because it's politically correct. No disrespect, but a lot of times I see certain kind of marketing of the Susan G. Komen with the pink ribbon, and I think, wow, are you really exploiting that? Are you doing that because you really believe in it? I'm not sure. I think there's other types of initiatives that sometimes you might call into question, but at least people are trying to do something. We give our employees 52 hours of paid time off to volunteer a year, and we want them to use it. More now because of the disastrous floods in Vermont, et cetera, and places like that. We now ship over $100,000, we don't talk about this in the press, of free brewers and coffee to our troops overseas in Iraq and Afghanistan every month to try to make life on them a little bit easier. And we commit a bunch of community grants, et cetera. So I think companies that have a really focused plan, you know about the Avon breast walk, right? Breast cancer walk. They've become synonymous with that. I think companies that really get it, you know it, and you usually want to support what they're doing. Does that answer your question? The answer's mine. Anything else? Laura, thank you very much.